Hey, welcome back. It's Stevie GB from Suffocating in Suburbia up here in my man cave with the cat tree behind me. And today I have a very special guest who is incognito. She said she's not ready for prime time, so that's pretty much it. So I've got her husband's name over there, Anthony Tetro. But let me tell you a little bit about this next guest. I met her back in 2006. I don't know if she knows that through another person, another comedian I know, John Shea. I had been at a contest, a comedy contest in Huntington, and I did quite well at it. There was, I'll tell you a little bit about it. It was the Huntington Laugh Off, and it was five judges and about 500 people, and 15 comedians had to perform for 5 minutes each. And I went up second. I did my 5 minutes, did very well. I felt good about it. 13 comics later, the five judges voted for somebody else, but I got the audience choice. So I always look at it as I won because 500 people liked me and only five judges won the winner, like the winner. So that's how I'm looking at it. But anyway, that's how I met Samantha over at Samantha's Little Bit of Heaven. And it's a great little place. And I'm going to bring her on right now. Samantha, how are you?
I am doing very well, Stevie. It is awesome to see you. I feel like we've been on hiatus for a while from each other. I haven't seen you since March,
I know.
and you're looking good. I'm
Thank you.
incognito, but you're looking really good.
I appreciate that. Do you remember? I mean, how long were you around? 2006. So you weren't really around very long by then, right?
Actually, we opened in April of 1994.
Wow.
So this will be going into our 28th year. And I will always remember the first time that you came to a little bit of heaven because you just blew it right out of the ballpark.
Yeah.
And we've kind of connected ever since then. And you're one of heaven's favorites as well.
Oh, thank you. I got to tell you something. I have never had a bad set at Little Bit of Heaven. It's unbelievable every single time. And that's, for a comedian to say that, it's a lot to say because we all have our days, our nights, our shows. We do the same material over and over, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but it always, you have such a wonderful audience. And you wouldn't believe how many comedians I know that say, "Oh, I can't do that room. It's too hard," because they can't be heaven clean. So, talk a little bit about that because I always find it interesting that what you define as clean and other comics don't.
Well, I thought that was really funny. I mean, going back, my whole reason actually to do comedy was more for the healing properties of laughter. So I find it interesting that scientists are now saying, how laughter is so great. But if you go back about 2000 years, it's actually written that a merry heart doeth good to the body like a medicine. So I felt it was after 9/11, and I just felt that people really didn't have that kind of joy laughter, those belly laughs like we were all used to. And, you'd see a smile or something, but the world changed right after
Mm.
that. And I said, if we could just do comedy on a level that would just bring back that sense of joy again. And so I said, well, it needs to be squeaky clean. And I set out to find squeaky clean comedians, and it took me about 3 years because it was
Wow.
like an archaeological dig. And all these different comedians would come in, but my idea of squeaky clean was different than their idea. I think they took it as clean meant they didn't curse or they didn't have a sexual innuendo. My idea of squeaky clean was that we have such a gamut of ages, from really from babies all the way. Our oldest guest was 110. So I
Wow.
wanted it to be a place that no one would ever feel uncomfortable or feel they couldn't bring their grandchild or anything like that.
Right.
And so, little by little, I just felt those doors opened. And the ones that, there were some comedians that came in, and Stevie, they were so good. And I just said, if you just go home, I'm challenging you. You're so funny. Just go home and write clean material because, you know, a, a, a dirty cursing comedian is a dime a dozen. But if you could come in here and you really have that gift of laughter, this place will celebrate you. And you've seen that because I think that the guests that come here are so excited and so grateful, to have the comedians, that they really honor each comedian that comes through our doors.
Well, that's very true. And I mean, have you ever had comedians come in where you just had to say in the middle of their act, "That's it," give them the hook?
I wanted to give the shepherd's rod, but I never actually did that I would never like want to embarrass the person, but
Right,
I would say, later on and just say, it's a ministry first. And
right.
so we have to always keep that in mind. And there were people that really tried to push the envelope, but you would see it in the sense of just the guests that are there. I mean, we had this big joke when we started. I think you remember, and we'd have pretzels on the table. So
Right.
we would say, listen, if any comedian say something a little subjectionable or uncomfortable, just shake the pretzels. We had to be very clear, don't throw them, but certainly shake them. And it became the joke of the joke. Then the
Yes.
comedians would say, oh, I didn't get pretzels shook today, or whatever. But I think that the many comedians that come here now, it really feels more like a family.
I agree. I agree. And I think only once in the many times I've been there, I got one pretzel shake, and it wasn't dirty. It was because one of the things I even tell other comics is they don't even like too much self-deprecation. And
Ex-
that's almost like a hallmark of comedy. But like if
Exact,
you're up there and you're making fun of yourself too much, people get the awe, you get the
exact.
we'll pray for you, you know?
Yeah. I actually was just saying that to a friend of mine, and I said, when somebody comes in and maybe they're overweight and they're making fun of themselves, and
Right.
in a club they would get a lot of laughs, but here everyone's like, oh, don't say that about yourself. And the people are just so loving, and I've heard a number of comedians have said to me, Mike Parenti being one of them, had said
Mm,
that he had gotten very nervous, and I said, but why would you ever be nervous? Everyone here is so thoughtful and so
right.
excited that you're here. But he said to me, because the people here really listen.
They do.
They give you that respect. We don't, there's no hecklers, there's nothing like that. So I think that it really enables the person to really step up their game.
I agree. It's a beautiful audience, and like I said, there's been times where
Oh,
I've come in there and I felt like I don't know if I'm going to do well tonight. It's just always get that. Every comedian gets that little uncertainty before they go on, and no matter how long you do it, and I think if you lose that, you there's something wrong. That's my feeling. I heard
and you know
once.
what? You always shine too.
I know, and for some reason, I get up there and something happens. It's so I really feel like it's God's house. Like there's a
Uh,
spirit there that kind of makes it happen, And
right.
I tell other comics about it, and they're like, "Oh, really?" And some of them, I've sent a few of them there, and they do well. I mean, I think Les Stegan, I may have sent
Yeah.
there, or maybe we met there. I don't remember. I have a little cloudy memory, but I've met a lot of great Willie Sacco. I love to death, who always
Yeah.
played there,
Hilarious.
and
Rich
of course the
Walker, Eric
Shays, Rich
Half.
Walker. Eric Haft, right. Now I've seen them, and I know Rich and Eric a long time, and I've seen them do club sets that I know are not, and we always joke about it. It was like, this isn't Samantha Worthy. You can't do this at Samantha's. You can't do that at Samantha's. And it's funny, we go in that little room and we'll talk to someone like a Pat Shea and say, what do you think about this? You think we could do this? And Pat is kind of like the gatekeeper
Yes,
sometimes
she is.
yeah, no, why don't you say it this way? Or maybe don't do that.
And you know what? She so gets us. I mean, it's amazing just how I met her. And it was just a Newsday did an article on her because she was voted, she was one of the nominees for in Nickelodeon for, I think, Funniest Mom. And
Oh,
from that point, this is before we had computers or anything. And I saved that article just saying maybe one day I'll get to meet her and she could come here. And she really does. She's able to just take one word that could be a fine line, flip it around, and
yeah.
then the guests find it hilarious. Yeah, I don't think I could do this without her. She really, really has the heart for the ministry.
Oh yeah, she's great. She's part of the furniture over there at this point.
Yes,
So,
that's for sure.
which is good. But I love all the people there, and you're so funny because sometimes every time I go there, you always say it's all different people, and you know what, Samantha, it's really not. It's a lot of the same people, but there is different people there sometimes. I shouldn't
I
say
think
that.
it's actually both. The people
Yeah,
that have seen you, they want to come back, and then
I
they
know.
always bring new people. Definitely. But I think also what I love for the comedians and for you especially is that it's always such a wonderful platform for you to try new material.
Yes.
And I've seen you come in under so many different guises of, okay, this is Guyland, and then you had the other one, which was, more musical, and you're able
Yeah.
to really, kind of get your hands in a place where everyone um is just so excited to be part of you birthing something new.
Yeah, I know. I think you're right. That's the beauty of it. And I think that's why it works so well for me personally, because I feel like you're so welcoming of everything. And but that makes it hard because when I try those jokes elsewhere, I'm like, well, this doesn't work here. It works there. I'm just going to go back there. So
Aw,
I love your place. I think it's great. It's a
well, I'm
nice,
so grateful to hear that.
yeah, it's a great environment. I want you to tell people who don't know, I know you do a whole big spiel at the beginning. You don't have to do the whole thing, but I always think it's a really interesting story of how you started. It's the Katie Beers story, right?
Yeah,
Pretty
it
much.
really is.
Yeah.
Well, actually, back in 1992, as you
Mm.
know, the big story on Long Island, sadly and horrifically, Katie Beers was a young girl who was kidnapped and kept underground. So for those 3 weeks, I just was riveted to the TV. And the day they actually found her, something just kind of broke in me of just the world just being just so dark. And of course, look at the world now. But back then, that was so horrible to me. And in that moment, I just sat crying, and finally I just cried out to God, and I was just like, "Boy, like, can't there just be a place for good people?" And I just thought, that's heaven.
Mm.
And with that, I was like, "Well, why can't there be a little bit of heaven on earth?" So for 2 years, I would write out my vision. What would a little bit of heaven be like if there actually was one? And I just started to picture a place for all ages so nobody would be home alone. And as I said, we've had our oldest is 110. You'll see when you come in, there's always a Jewish star with a cross. And that is because I wanted it to be a place we could celebrate our differences and stop being so divided by them.
Mm.
And then I knew there'd have to be chocolate. So I said, well, there needs to just be, if we're going to eat something, it should really be chocolate. So anyway, I started to really write out my vision, and very, very specific, and designed it, what would it look like and the whole thing. And I really sat with it, for those 2 years until a friend, I finally sat down with her and said, "Oh, wouldn't it be great if someone did this?" And I kind of saw it like a Cheers without beers. And I said, "Wouldn't it be great? Just imagine all people and everybody knows your name." And so, I was very Pollyanna. And she read everything and she just looked at me and she said, she said, "When are you going to do this?" And I honestly, Stevie, I didn't think it was supposed to be me. I didn't have the money. I didn't have the know-how. And I certainly couldn't make coffee. So I didn't think I was the one. I thought I was the idea person. Somebody else would step up and I would volunteer for them. I did think it would be a nonprofit, which it is. I did think it would be all volunteer. None of us get paid. We all do this as a labor of love.
Mm.
But so she said to me, she goes, "You know what?" She goes, I'm going to bring some people that pray in, and let's pray over this list that you have." And that was so foreign to me. I was so new in my faith walk. So I brought the list in that had everything on it: tables, chairs, sound equipment, you name it. I go in, there's a bunch of holy rollers there, and a holy roller to me was somebody that, no matter what you ask them, they know the book, the chapter, and the verse of where
Yeah.
you find the answer. And so, I'm looking at them and they're just sharing all these promises that really just took over what my concerns were. What I thought, I have no money. Oh no, Philippians 4:13, 4:19, or I can't do this. Oh, Philippians 13. And they're giving me all these things. So finally I just wanted so to fit in with them. And I just looked at them and I said, "Well, it's like when God said to Noah, if you build it, they will come." And there was like dead silence. And they're looking at me and I go, "What?" And they go, "Well, actually, God didn't say that to Noah." I go, but it was 120 years. It was the ark. And they said, "Samantha, that's not in the Bible. And that wasn't Noah. That was Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner, Field of Dreams.
And it was Field of Dreams. And it would take me, honestly, Stevie, it took me about 15 years to share that because I was always embarrassed.
Oh, that's
But now
funny.
to me, it's more, the miracle of it all. So we prayed over that list. Within weeks, every single item on that list was provided for supernaturally.
Wow.
They were found in dumpsters, garage sales on Sunday at the curb, and we ended up opening on April 8th. And since that day, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of guests they have visited from all over the world. I've
Wow.
pretty much never been anywhere, and yet people have visited from Japan, China, Russia, Scotland, Australia. And
Wow.
this year, since the COVID, actually, I've probably met more locals than I have met in all the years, because people have traveled from all over the world to come. So now I'm like, oh, look, East Northport, how sweet is that? So yeah, it's been quite miraculous.
Wow. Now, have you ever met or spoken to Katie Beers and told her this story?
I have not as yet. I do believe she knows the story, because when her book came out, a lot of people wrote to her, and a number of people stepped forward saying they knew her or they were related to her. So that is a really deep prayer of mine, that a day will come that I can just share with her that, out of that horrible tragedy,
Hmm.
so many lives have been changed.
Yeah.
It was something that was dreadful, but yet, yet many lives have been changed for the better, because of finding that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, you've done an incredible job, and I know you've even had some people get married at a little bit of heaven and
we've had 40 marriages from
40.
people. 40. I was number 13. That was never my intention. It was never meant to be a singles place, so to speak. I wanted
Right.
it to be that singles could come and make a friend, married couples can come on a date, and families could bring their kids, their dogs, you name it.
Mm.
And but that was just, I guess, just people just meeting of like minds. So we have marriages made in heaven up on our wall. They can see all the different
I
couples
know.
that are
I've
here.
seen it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just
That's a
a nice little perk that none of us expected.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. And you even have a CD. Do you have just one or two CDs that came out of there?
Yeah, we just have the volume one. I know
Right.
everybody's been on. We could probably have 20 volumes by now with all the amazing talent that comes through our doors. But I put a lot of work into that one. And I know now I'm so like untechy. I'm hearing now that people don't even do CDs anymore. So I'm like
Yeah.
Wilma Flintstone in a Jane Jetson world. I gotta get cool like you.
Believe me, I'm struggle. I struggle sometimes too, but it's okay. So let me see something else I can ask you this evening. I'm always impressed by the sound and lights and your tech system is really good there. And I guess is it Patty? Does Patty handle all of that all the time or?
Well, we're all volunteers, so we do have about 4 to 5 different sound techs
Mhm.
that will offer of their time. Each one has, their favorites. So some like to strictly be with the live, like more of a rock kind of band.
Right.
Others like the duets. So thank God, Patty's another one. Like, if you talk to her, which of course she'll be doing comedy actually on February 19th.
Oh,
So she
great.
stepped out behind the sound booth, but she's another one where, just like me, absolutely had no experience and is now, quite an awesome sound tech.
Mm. Oh, she's great. I love the way that it sounds there. It's always crisp and clear, and the lighting. It's just you wouldn't believe how many times those things are missing when we do comedy shows. It's
Oh,
unbelievable.
so I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I applaud you for that and everything. Just the way you run the show and the way you do it. It's just like I said before. It's welcoming. It's nice to be there, and I'm happy to be a part of the Heaven family. That's for sure.
And we're sure happy to have you.
What else? What else did I want to ask you? Um, Tell me a little bit about your faith. I mean, you're a Jewish girl. You grew up a little Jewish
Yes.
girl.
Yes, I am Jewish girl, went to Hebrew school, and learned a lot about the stories,
Mm,
basically. But there came a significant time one day. I was kind of just in a parking lot, and I'm looking over at the cross, that was up on a steeple, and I just went, what is it about the name of Jesus? Like, what is it that's so powerful that people will either love it or hate it? They'll kill for it, they'll die for it. What
mm,
is the power in that name that you don't hear that with anything else? And it was just this kind of just out loud question that I asked. And from that point on, um, I think that's really where my search began. That was just, who are you? And can you be can you be Jewish and follow Yeshua, which is Hebrew for
Mm,
Jesus.
mm,
And so it really just became a search. And he says in the Old Testament, that he rewards those who diligently seek him, and he will, if you seek him, you will find him. And it would just, from that point on, it just seemed wherever I turned, I was just learning more and more through the Old Testament, mind you, not through the New.
mm,
And then he would just reveal himself to me in so many different ways. And of course, with Little Bit of Heaven, I think that's really where my faith has grown the most. And that is because, first of all, I saw him do the impossible. He's still doing the impossible in
mm,
28 years. I mean, just even the fact that we were closed all those months during COVID and yet we're open, is nothing short of amazing.
mm,
And just watching the change in people, I think that, a lot of times if somebody says something to me one way or the other, right, I'll just say, but you know what, you can't disprove a changed life. I know who I was and I know who I am now, and I'm not the same person. And really that was just, the love of God and being able to grow in my faith in that way, and seeing him do so many things. A Little Bit of Heaven, I mean, I've
mm.
seen the crippled walk, I've seen people healed. And these are things that, I would see on TV. And I have to tell you, Stevie, I would always be, I don't know. I was like so skeptical. But when it started happening at Little Bit of Heaven, that was a whole new thing, because I'm standing right there and I'm like, whoa.
Wow.
So I'm kind of growing along with the ministry in my faith.
Wow, that's wonderful. And did you meet your husband there, Anthony?
And I met my husband here. He was there as a guest. And as it turned out, he was a musician. He's very shy.
Mhm,
So I remember just always talking with him because he was so quiet. And I said, oh, how's he going to make a friend?
mhm.
So, so I would talk to him. And the more I talked to him, I'm like, this is really some special guy. He's going to make some young girl such a good husband, because he was a lot younger than me. And I would think of all the different people I could introduce him to.
Mhm,
And, he's real started out singing there. And now he teaches, he has Vessel of Honor,
mhm.
and knows everything, the Old Testament, the New Testament. And people are really drawn, because whether you're Jew or Gentile coming in, you'll learn so much, about the scriptures.
Yes. And you have other ministries there. I know you have, was it Tanya, uh, and
Tanya and Jim Nemley,
Jim,
they're
that's it.
they're adorable. They're
They're
absolutely
wonderful.
we have what's called Tuesday night talks, and it's worship, wisdom, and the word. So each Tuesday night, we bring in a different guest speaker who will teach on a topic that will help someone live a more triumphant life in Christ. So it's always different. Tanya and Jim, of course, are, they're a monthly. And we
Mhm.
have Rosemary Valentino, Pastor Ski, that we love. He's from the Rushing
Yes.
Wind Biker Church. So he's a lot of fun when he's there, and Matthew Rivera. So they're all different backgrounds, all different ministries. And I love that, because we're different. It's just like there's a reason why you're drawn to certain comedians, certain music, but it's the same way as well as your faith. As you grow in God's word, there are certain teachers that you're able to receive more from.
Yes, I agree. That's very perfectly said. And who is it? Karen Orlando? Is it Orlando?
Yeah, she's not with us anymore.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah, there's a whole bunch of other teachers. And of course, the musicians, that's a whole other
Oh,
thing
yeah.
in itself, because you see musicians where they start out on open mic and then you watch them flourish and grow. And
Mhm.
next thing, they have CDs and they're playing all these places. And we also have a lot of bands that come in as well. Before COVID, we have a great rock band that comes from Russia,
Wow.
and oh my goodness, they were amazing. We've also had teachers that have come from India, they've come from Israel, from New Zealand, from Scotland.
Wow.
So it's very well rounded, and to hear from all different teachers, all based on the same, of God's word, but their way to deliver it is just incredible.
Yeah, it's really exciting. It's really
It
exciting.
is.
Now, do you still have the TV show? You know how many times people email me or Facebook and, hey, I just turned on Samantha's Little Heaven and you're on. I was on that thing once a month, I think, and then it
That's true, 'cause
stopped for a
we love
while.
you. That's why I always well, you know what it is? I call it the Little Bit of Heaven, vintage, because
Right.
that was done many, many, many I called it 50 pounds ago. That's how long ago it was done.
Yeah, I think it was like
And
2008 or something.
yeah, and the people still love it. So it's cable, so we keep it on because
Yeah.
I can always tell when it's on. They give us a great time slot, and I can always tell because every Monday night they always somebody calls asking for a calendar. But now we do a lot of YouTube live, we do a lot of Facebook live.
Yes.
During the summer, while we were closed, we started Heaven at Home, and it was really neat because it was a little more intimate. And aside from the big bands, I felt like the Lord was really raising up that solo artist, those duos, those trios. And I was able to interview them and learn more about, their walk of faith and how they started. So I'm kind of leaning towards that. I actually really enjoyed learning more about them behind the scenes.
Wow, that's interesting. So you've pretty much made your way through this whole pandemic crisis and not only survived, but were able to maneuver and get some new ideas and new ways to bring what you do to people, and that's great.
Well, it's funny because I kind of feel like now when people come in who are new, and I said, well, this is the Little Bit of Heaven's No Frills edition. Because there's so many things we're not allowed to do because of COVID, which are things I miss the little books on the table, I miss
Yeah.
little things. But something, I think the people are so grateful just to be out, to be in a safe
Mhm.
place. I mean, we certainly can't have the same amount of people we always could and things like that, but you see them coming in even if it's for 2 hours, because normally we were open till midnight. Even if it's for 2 hours, they'll have tears in their eyes saying it was so good just to be here.
So you're closing
So
earlier than your usual time?
yes, we close at 10. Not that we have to, but I really wanted to honor the restaurants that are
Right.
around us, even though we're not a restaurant. But I
Mhm.
feel like they all have to close. So I just want to be able to, respect that. I don't want to see them drive by and like, why are they open?
Right,
So
right.
I
No, that's
felt like,
nice of you. That's nice of you
yeah,
to be aware of that. That's good. Um, Let me think. Anything else? Oh, where did you grow up? Did you grow up on Long Island?
I grew up in Queens,
Oh.
and it was a really, really small town. It was
Hmm.
Rockaway, so it was a very small town.
Hmm.
And then I came out here to Plainview. And then when I came to East Northport, I was like, oh boy, there's not much to do out here. And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, like everything here closes at 9 o'clock. There's like
Yep.
not a lot to do. And who would think that years later, we actually have a place that we're, before COVID opened later than most of the places around here, other than Wendy's. Wendy's and I kind of have who's going to close first, before COVID. But,
Right.
here we are that it's so much later. But honestly, East Northport, it's where I found my faith, where the Lord raised up a little bit of heaven. So now, he places you and he guides you and he provides for you. So that's
Yes, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And again, I was never a deeply religious person, but I've always been close to Jesus. I had a I never really told this story to a lot of people, but I have a little story.
I
If
would
you don't
love to
mind
hear it.
indulging me. When I was 9 years old, I was sick. I had the flu. I was running a fever, and I always ran high fevers. But in this, I think my fever was up in the 105 range. And
Oh
for a
my.
9 year old, that's very dangerous. And my mother was giving me alcohol rubs because that's what they did back in those days. And I was basically going through something. And I don't know if it was a seizure, but hallucinations. And I
Oh,
had a huge crucifix on the wall. And I remember looking over at it, and Jesus was not on the cross. And I was telling my mother, he's not on the cross. And she's saying, pray, 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 because she thinks this is it. I'm going. And I was
oh,
hallucinating. And all of a sudden, Samantha, there was a glow in my room. There was like a bright light. And this could have been a near death experience. And in came this glowing figure, and all people around my bed, and I felt this glowing figure like put his hand on my head, and he said to
Oh,
me, "I am Jesus." And he put his
oh,
hand on my head, and my mother said, I was saying, "He's here, he's here." And she's saying, and she's freaking out. Of course, she's my
of
mother.
course.
And or she said, all of a sudden, I fell asleep. She took my temperature. It was 99. I went from 105 to 99. So
Stevie, I can't believe you never told anyone
I
that. That's so powerful.
I've only told a few people that because I'm like sweating a little bit thinking about it, because I think at that moment I had like I feel like I know him, like
Right.
he's a personal friend of mine. You know what I mean?
And that's
And
exactly what he wants to be. And I think
yeah,
that's the thing is people do get very caught up in they need to be this religion or that religion. And you
right,
know what? We all stand before him. He's not going to ask us what religion we are. He's going to say, "Do you know who I am?"
right.
And that's what he looks for is that personal relationship, whether you're Jewish or Gentile or whatever. And that is such a wonderful, beautiful experience that you had. And I'm
Yeah.
sure nothing, no matter how old you get, you relive it, right? When you're
Oh,
thinking,
I remember it just like I told it to you. Like I've always remembered it, and I always felt like I had that personal connection. So when I would hear people say, like Jesus is this giant thing, I said, no, he's a regular person, and
right,
and you have to understand that's what he is, and he has all these amazing things, but deep down he's just like you and me. And that's the way you have to just talk to him like you would talk to
exactly,
anybody, and that's what I do. And I've always felt that way. And I loved all the biblical movies, King of Kings, and I would watch them, and I've read the Bible, and I would read his parables and the Sermon on the Mount, and I say all he's really doing is telling us how to live. It's very
exactly,
simple. And people think it's this lofty thing, like you said, and it's not. It's very simple. It's very personal. And if you have a one-on-one relationship with him, that's all you really need to have.
exactly. And I think that's the thing is you see so many people trying to fill that void. It's almost like we all have that little part of our heart that's just waiting to, have him make it his home, but he waits
Right.
for us,
Right.
to say it. And in your situation, he literally did come into your room and heal you. And there are people that have had that experience. Same thing, my husband, when he was a child, and my mother in love told me the story how, he was having all these seizures and he was in the hospital. And all of a sudden, like this, priest walks in and next thing he's looked at my mother in law and said, he'll be fine.
Mm.
And so she ran out to say, "Who is he?" Because she wanted to thank him. And that was it. And Anthony was healed from that point on.
Wow.
And so those are things that you can't deny. And again, like nobody can ever take that kind of testimony away from you. It's
Hmm.
it's such a personal thing. And I think that's the thing when they make him so far away and they want to look for every other way when all he's just saying is just come to me. I'll make your life so much easier. And he
Exactly.
does. Yeah. And
Yeah, he
and really
does.
even when I think of the Bible, it's really a love letter.
Hmm.
It's I remember one time I got in this conversation with someone ironically in a funeral home, and she found out that I volunteer at Little Bit of Heaven, and somehow in her mind she felt that she goes, "Oh, I don't feel I'm good enough to go there." And I was like, "What?" Like I couldn't even understand that way of thinking. I said, "Everybody's welcome. What are you saying?" So anyway, as I was driving home that night, Stevie, I was just like, "Lord, how do I get her to understand like how special she is, how valuable she is?" And this is what I hear, Stevie, and I had to pull the car over. I heard, "You can't claim your inheritance if you've never read the will."
Oh, wow.
And that just stopped me in my tracks because it was so true. Like if people really saw just the way you would leave a will so your loved ones would know what belongs to them, he left us a will. It's the last will and testament. Everything in there belongs to us, but if we never read it, then we never know that he is a friend, or he is our provider, or he is our encourager, or he is our comforter or our teacher, because we don't know. And then when we know, then it's just like I sit there sometimes and I'm like, Why didn't somebody tell me sooner?
Exactly. It's really so simple. It's funny because, my daughter, I try to explain things to her and she's very stubborn. And I had a nice conversation with her about Jesus. I said, he's the J man. He's the big J, you know? It's
Right.
like he's the man. And when I bring it down to that level, she got it. It's like, oh,
Right.
because they, like you said, they want him to be something,
They
the,
want the Wizard of Oz. They want
yeah, the
that
big
Wizard of
white
Oz feel
robe, the white
behind
robe
the
and the
curtain.
no, he's just the man. He's the guy. He's
Right?
it. He's everybody's friend, and all you have to do is accept him,
Exactly.
and he'll accept you. He already accepts you. All you need to do
Right.
is go to him.
Right.
That's
Because
it.
he says he chose us. He
Right.
chose first. That's the
Right.
thing that's so amazing.
Yeah.
And sees us as so valuable. And I just think I keep thinking is your testimony will stay with me forever. And now when you come to comedy, you're gonna have to share that. But
Uh,
I think of how
I always
he,
feel a little. It's weird. I feel a little weird talking about it. It's because I guess because it's so personal, and I don't want people to judge me, but I guess they won't.
and
Certainly not
something,
there.
I think the opposite. I think it wouldn't be judge. I think it's a firsthand experience because what I'm thinking of is he heard your mother's cry.
Mm.
Your mother had to be praying, for
Oh,
her son. And there
you
he
wouldn't
is, and he's
believe it.
so sick. And there you come in with this experience that changes the whole dynamic of your walk as well as
Yeah.
your family. Because they said, well, what did they say right in the scripture? I was blind, but now I see. You were sick and now you weren't.
Yeah, it
Right?
was Amazing Grace. It was exactly what it was. And
Wow. Woo!
yeah, I know. I get chills still talking about it.
Me
I never
too. I
forgot it.
have chills. Yeah, I'll have to now interview you.
There you go. There you go. So, oh boy, I can't even think of anything else to talk about because I've now spilled my guts.
That's okay. Well, let's talk about you. What's on your agenda when you're coming back on track after
Well,
COVID?
I've been doing Zoom shows, a couple of like with libraries, and they're a little tough, but they're not so bad. They're at least people are paying attention, and I'm trying to do some more writing. I'm doing some writing. I'm always doing something. You know me. Uh, Doing some teaching. I was trying to help people develop their own solo shows, but I do want to get back to performing, and I certainly will come back to heaven. You
Oh,
know
you just
that.
have to. Whenever you're ready. I say it's all, in God's timing. When you're ready, our
It's
doors are
tough now
open.
because my mother-in-law is 83 and she's kind of here a lot. She's living with us and then she's not living with us. She still has her house, but she stays here a lot. And my
Right.
wife's very nervous about the whole thing. She's a little bit paranoid to begin with. So she's like, "You really want to go out and all this is going." And in the summer it got better, and but still everything was closed. And now the
Right.
numbers are back up again. It's like, and then it was like Thanksgiving, the numbers went up, and then Christmas, the numbers. Then we got Super Bowl Sunday, the numbers are going to go up, and so it's
Mm,
just like I'm just waiting it out at this point.
I know. You know what it is? I think just too little is known yet, and that's the
Yeah,
thing. So keep surmising. First, it was children can't get it. Then it was, oh, and the warm weather will change, and the cold weather. So I always just say to everyone, you know what? You go with what you feel is right. If you need to stay home, you stay home. If you feel like coming out, we're here for you. We do everything that we can to make it as safe as we can. But it really has to be, the peace has to be your guide.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I will get out, and I appreciate you always asking me. I do appreciate that,
And I'll keep
and
asking until
keep
it's
asking,
over.
and I will get there. I will get there,
And I
and
thank you so much for having me on your podcast. That
oh,
was
of
very
course,
sweet.
that was really fun. I wish I could have seen you, but you're afraid.
Oh my goodness. You know why I'm afraid? I'll tell you why. Because I'm not techie at all, right? So my husband was at a store and he wanted me to see something. So he said, well, I'll FaceTime you. And I'm like, what's that? And he goes, honey, it's on your phone. I said, oh, I don't know. What's that? So he goes, get your phone. I'll call you. And he's telling me what to do. So the FaceTime comes on and all of a sudden I see me and I'm like, get out of here. So I ducked under the table. I said, that's what I look like to you on FaceTime? This is what I look. So that was so I'm not ready yet.
Okay,
I
that's
think people
fine.
are very brave to do their whole visual. I'll get there over time.
You'll get there. You'll get there. I always like seeing you better in person anyway. It's always fun seeing
Ah,
you. And
thank you. Well, I look
I
forward
will
to that.
be back.
And I will wait for that. And you will be in my prayers, and of course your
Oh,
family as well.
thank you.
And
You
whenever
also.
you're ready, you just, give a shout, and you will have your own night, and that'll be perfect.
Thank you. Listen, Samantha, it's been wonderful talking to you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank
And
you.
I will see you. God bless you. God bless you and everything you do. And I love you. I love you to
And,
death.
and I love you too. And God bless you. And make sure to tell more people that story. They need to hear it. Encouragement
I
right now.
will. It makes me nervous, but maybe I should. Maybe I should. It might.
Well, they
Maybe
know
it's
you and they know it's truth. And you know what? They need to know that Jesus wants to be their friend.
exactly. And
Yeah.
I tell my daughter the story because it's hard. Young people today. I hate saying that. These young kids today,
Right.
but they reject. It's so sad how many of them just reject the
I
whole
know.
thing, and I don't get it. I just don't get it. I say, your life would just be you don't not telling you to give everything up, but your life would be just so much better if you just accept him. That's
Right.
all he wants you to do is accept him. He doesn't
Well,
ask
imagine.
anything else.
Well, I think also if the person could imagine, and of course we only know once you're on the other side of that fence. Before you're on the other side of the fence, you don't realize that almost daily is striving to make it, striving to succeed, striving to stay healthy. Once you go onto the other side of knowing him, all of a sudden you realize that the God of all creation
Hmm.
is accessible for wisdom, for direction, for guidance, for provision. I mean, there's so many benefits that come with having that relationship with him,
Yeah,
and just being able to say, gee, I don't know what to do, but wow, you're the God of everything. You'll
yeah.
know. And he will never ever fail us. He will always show us, he will always tell us. And I think that's what makes it so amazing all the time, to be able to just say, you know what, I even sometimes even the prayer could be an inside prayer. It's something you just say on the inside of your heart or in your mind, and all of a sudden you see that prayer answered. And sometimes it's yes, and sometimes it's I got something better.
Right. That's
Hmm.
I can't tell you how many times that happened to me with Westbury. My Dion
Oh,
opening up. Samantha, that's what happened. I was having such a hard time. I was struggling with everything, and I went out in the backyard. This is what I usually do. I go in the backyard and I looked up and I said, you know, help me out here. Get me something that I'm going to feel good about because this is not working. I'm trying to promote some shows and I'm not selling tickets. And then there were other struggles I was going through. And the next day, I got the email uh, to open for Dion at Westbury, and I said, and now I'm outside, and I always thank them. I always go out to make sure to thank them. Thank
absolutely.
you, thank you.
Yeah.
And that's all. Yeah, I feel like that's all he really wants is he just wants to acknowledge that.
Right.
Yeah, that's it. It doesn't have to be anything grandiose. Uh, but that's happened many times where I just go out and I don't abuse it. I always feel like I don't want to abuse it.
Right.
I don't want to bother you with this trivial thing. I know you're busy, and that's how I talk to him, like I would talk to a friend.
Exactly. And that's all he wants. And
Yeah,
I
you
think
don't
if
have to
you're
sit there and do the Lord's Prayer every time you talk to Jesus. It's just, it's just, and I told my daughter that when she was going through a rough time. I said, just ask the J man. I call him the J man. Call the J
right,
man.
right.
Ask him what he thinks, and just wait a couple of days. Just ask him, and wait a couple of days and see what happens. And she will call me up a couple of days later and say, "You're not going to believe it. What I was looking for." I said, "Well, why do you think that happened?" And she forgot that I said, "Did you ask that for that?" And she said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, then that's why it happened." Or like you just said, something better happened. I said,
Exactly.
"Well, that's him
There's there's
too."
there's two things. One of my favorite scriptures is Jeremiah 33:3, and it says, "Call upon me and I will answer you and show you great and mighty things that you do not know." And
Mm.
I was thinking how I saw the video of your time at Westbury, and I remember crying as I was watching it, because I said, this could not have been any more perfect, because every single person there was from Long Island, would get every single joke you said. I just felt it was the shining moment that was just, I went, this is like a gift from God to him. What an opportunity. And
You
of course,
wouldn't
it'll always
believe
be
how
Westbury.
perfect you wouldn't believe how perfect that night went. It couldn't
I
have.
know.
I went there and I was a nervous wreck, obviously. They said, come in 5 o'clock for a sound check. I'm like, okay. I got there at 4:30 because I want to make sure I'm there on time. And they said, okay, we're going to do the sound check. Go down to the stage. Okay. Speak into the mic. Say hello, 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 hello. Okay, the sound check's over. That was it.
Wow.
Now I had to stay there until 8 o'clock. So that was like the longest 3 hours of my life. But I'm wandering around, and the woman came up to me and said, "You're going to go on at exactly 8." Now, in my mind, I'm thinking, I know how concerts work. Nothing
Right.
starts at 8. These people are going to be coming in at 8:15, and I only had 20 minutes. I said, I'm going to get interrupted because I'm thinking horrible things. And it's all going to go bad. And I said, everything's going to go wrong. And wouldn't you know, it was pouring rain. All of a sudden, the skies opened up. It started pouring at 7. So she came in. She said, "Well, instead of opening the house at 7:30, we're opening it up now at 7 because of the rain." So
Wow.
by quarter to 8, every single person was seated and ready to watch the show. So I went out at 8 o'clock, and the people I had their full attention, 3,200 people, I had their
Oh,
full attention.
do you
And I had
remember
to do
driving home or did you fly home?
Oh, I'm still on a cloud. That was 3 years ago almost. It would be 3 years this year, and I'm still there. It was the perfect. I had to do 20 minutes, and they were very strict. They said 20 minutes, don't
Right.
go under, don't go over. I did 20 minutes and 1 second. I knew exactly what I was going to do. Every joke landed. It was the best performance I think I've ever had in my 25 years. And I drove home and I was thanking Jesus. I was praising the Lord all the way home. And
Right.
he made the skies open up for me. And I was like, thank you. That was amazing.
Because it was better, right? More than you could have thought or
It
imagined.
was the greatest night of my life comedy wise.
Yeah.
It really was. And because
Hmm.
I've always dreamed, and I remember going there with my wife to see Don Rickles and Joan Rivers
Oh,
back
I
in
think
like
I went to that
the
actually.
same bill, and Joan Rivers blew him off the stage. She was amazing, filthy but funny. And
Right.
we went there, and that was the day. It was I had just started doing comedy. It was like 1992, and I turned to my wife. I said, "One of these days, I'm going to play this theater."
Oh.
And she said, "You think so?" I said, "Yeah, it's going to happen for me." And, I was delusional back then. And a few times after I went there, I always felt like I'm going to be on that stage one day. And it happened. And
Wow.
it's unbelievable.
It really, and does it feel surreal? Because I remember just
Oh,
watching you on in the film, and I said, he must be beside himself. This is like a comedian's dream.
it was like I said, I had 3 hours to walk around, which felt like 3 years because it took
Right.
forever. But that 20 minutes felt like 20 seconds. And I felt
Oh,
like I was out of myself. I didn't even, it was like an out of body experience. I was there, but I was not there. I just was on
right.
automatic pilot, and I just knew when I hit the stage, everything was going to go right. I just knew it, and it did, and it was just amazing. And I still can't believe it happened. But of course, after that, I wanted to be there every week, and
Right.
but that's okay. If it never happens again, it happened, and I'm fine with that. So
It
it
kind of
was a
reminds me,
beautiful
there's a
thing.
Yiddish, there's a Hebrew word, dayenu, if that was all, right? If that was all the
Right,
Lord did, that would have been enough. And
right.
you've had two really big dayenus in your life, from him healing you early on and then him giving you a desire of your heart to play at Westbury. Wow.
Yeah,
And there's
yeah.
more to come, Stevie.
Yeah, I feel that way. And, without being, sounding braggadocious, not at all, but I feel like I'm
No,
ready
that
for it. I'm ready for it. And I know COVID put a little pause in things, but there's more to come. I'm not finished.
right, exactly. And you use the time for COVID, I think, is giving us time to be more creative.
It is, I do feel that way. It's like it's making me think a little more and be a little more self aware of where I'm at and
Hmm.
other thoughts and ideas and creativity. And I think this happened for a reason. And, it's kind of, they gave us, I think Jesus gave us a timeout. You
Hmm.
need a timeout.
Yeah. A
One way to
little,
look at it.
gave a lot of time to think, not in
Yeah,
the way we would have
I
wanted, but
know.
I think on the other side, it's put priorities in order,
Yes.
important order, family, God, everything.
I hope so. I hope
Yeah.
people, are waking up to that. And I think they are. You got to turn off the news
Yeah.
once in a while, but
Right.
that's the poison that's out there. There's a lot of
I know.
poison out there.
Oh boy, I know. And there's again, I'm sounding like a holy roller now, but there's a verse, Philippians 4:8. It goes, think about what is beautiful, lovely, true, honest, and pure. And you sit there saying, you know what? He even gave us a checklist on what to think about. And really, you turn on the news and it's so dark right now that,
Yeah,
and then I feel on top of that, the people are isolated. So now they're isolated listening to bad news.
I
So
know.
I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
got to turn it around.
A
Yep.
lot of depression out there. But that's
Yeah.
maybe that makes us turn to the right way.
Yeah. I hope so.
Nothing's bigger than God.
You got that right. And that's the thing that will be, God says, I turn everything around for good. And that's what I'm hoping, that they'll realize that there's someone who loves them more than life itself.
That's it. That's all you have to know.
Right.
It's that simple. It's simple.
I know
It's
people
so
make it
simple.
hard.
We
Yeah.
make it difficult. It's like, oh, I don't like organized religion and I don't like following rules and you're using it as a crutch. I hate that one.
I
And
know.
I'm like, no, no, no. You just get that out of your head. It's a personal
Right.
relationship and he's there for you. And all you have to do is go and say, uh, I'm here. I'm here.
Right.
I'm here. You're already there. And here I am.
I
That's
know
it.
someone, it was cute. Someone said to me once, well, what do I say to him? I said, well, start out with hello. Because he hasn't heard from you in a while. I think it's just people make it harder than what it is,
Exactly.
because I think if they saw that he's just saying, just talk with me.
That's
That's
it.
all. Yeah.
That's it.
Oh,
That's all
what
it
a
is.
blessing. This has
All
been a
right.
blessing, and I thank you so
Oh,
much.
you're welcome. Thank you so much. And thank your husband for putting his name up on the screen.
Right.
I will post this on my Facebook and you can share it if you like.
I absolutely will. I'm sure everyone's going to want to hear it, and they'll get
Yeah,
to see you at the same time, which is wonderful. All right. So keep me posted.
I will.
All right. And stay in touch, and God bless you and your family.
You too. Thank you so much, Samantha. God bless you.
Thank you, Stevie G.
All right. Bye-bye.